Hey, Bible readers!
Welcome to TBR Deep Dive. I'm Kirsten McCloskey.
I'm Emma Daughter.
And we have back with us
Always good to be back.
one of our favorite guests, LB.
Hey guys, good to be back.
So LB, you have been on some episodes with us before.
And I've
but
loved it.
Yes, it's been wonderful. Just in case someone's popping in and they haven't met you before in a previous episode, tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Laura Buchelt. My friends call me LB. They will call me LB this episode.
Because we're friends.
I get to run our Israel Lux division, which is awesome. And then I also get to play in our theology and curriculum spaces with these awesome humans.
Yeah.
So that's most of what I get to do. But what I love about joining you guys on Deep Dive is that this podcast isn't about like proving my point is right. And that's, I think, my favorite thing, that this is never about proving that Emma and Kirsten are the smartest people in the room.
We're
It's
not.
always
Nope.
about—
Can confirm.
Yeah, it's always about coming open-handed and going, how can we understand this a little bit more so that we can love God a little bit more? So I hope that you guys are encouraged by that. That's always my favorite part of
That's
being
awesome.
here.
Yeah, we love that. Well, thanks for joining us today. So let's go ahead and talk about Proverbs. So we read Proverbs, and more Proverbs this week.
That we did.
That
Only
we
Proverbs.
did. Only Proverbs. So
Not a bad thing.
no, not a bad thing at all. And this first question is going to kind of kick us off with that. So this comes from day 158, and it's more of a general question about Proverbs. The question is, what's the best way to study Proverbs? It feels so different from other books in the Bible. I love it, and I want to learn more.
And as we're getting started, I just want to differentiate here. We are talking about how to study Proverbs, which is different than what we're doing on TBR. On TBR, we're just reading it and looking for our God shot. So this question, we're going to talk about how to study it, which would be the next step past what we do with TBR.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
It's good that we're asking and answering this question because Proverbs does feel different.
Yeah.
It is. That's the point. It isn't meant to be read like a story. It's meant to be read like a collection of wise sayings. So if you try to read it like Genesis or Acts, it's going to feel disjointed. It's not going to feel the same. But when you understand what it is, it's super life-giving to study and explore. It's giving you bite-sized snapshots of wisdom, and a lot of those snapshots are built on comparisons. So as we study Proverbs, an easy place to start is to ask, what two things is the proverb putting side by side?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
What's being compared. So often it's something like, this is what the wise person does and this is what the fool does. Or this is the way the righteous lives and this is the way the wicked lives. Or here's what leads to life and here's what leads to, you guessed it. Yeah, there you go. And if you can identify those two sides, you're already halfway there to understanding and studying the verse.
Well, and I think just to jump in here, one thing that is really key with Proverbs is that it's really meant to be meditated on and mulled over. So like what you're saying, it's not a story. It's not a history book. I mean, there are some story elements to it with the way that the author's writing it, like it's painting a picture or a little vignette or something. But you're really kind of meant to chew on it. And so I think even as you're talking about looking at these two comparisons, one easy way to study those would be just keep a notebook that has ways of the wicked, ways of the wise. You could just be kind of keeping track and thinking about, okay, like what characterizes these things, and then checking in with yourself. Am I lining up more with, this column that's a positive column, or am I a little bit more over here? That would be something.
And then you can even go downstream from that of like, okay, I know what the words are, but what are they saying? What are they meaning? So it's talking about water here. Is this actually talking about water here, or is this talking about life? So there's sometimes there's the words
Symbolism.
and then there's the words under the words. That is also interesting to pay attention to.
Yeah, I would encourage those seeking to study Proverbs to slow down.
Yes.
Rather than trying to read a whole chapter and get the point all at once, break it up into smaller pieces, pick a few verses or maybe just one, and really sit with it, asking, what does this teach me about wise living? What does this teach me about God or how to live or people or business or whatever the subject matter might be? And approach them slowly rather than jumping in and looking at it as one big collective whole.
Yeah.
Which might be a good differentiation between studying and reading in general scripture, but Proverbs more specifically because it's kind of chocked full with all these hidden gems.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And I like the idea of something as simple as like a Post-it note or note cards. My dad, I always think about him with Proverbs because he, for a time, he maybe still does this. Dad, do you still do this? He had a whole bunch of Proverbs written on different note cards. So again, it's like sometimes the Proverbs is a couple verses. Sometimes the motto or the saying is just one verse. And so he'd write them on these note cards. And when he'd be sitting places or even in challenging situations, he'd take out the note card and remind himself of God's wisdom. And I feel like that is such a simple thing. You put a Post-it on your mirror or you have your note cards with you in your car as you're driving places. And you're just continuing to think over and mull over, what is this wisdom teaching me? Like, how can I learn from this?
Right. What do I need to do with this? How does this need to change the way I'm thinking or processing? What is it saying about God? I think all of that. I wonder, and either of you guys have a favorite proverb that you like?
I feel like I should say Proverbs 31.
You are. We are a Proverbs 31 woman.
I feel like I should say it. That's good.
But is there any that you like keep coming back to that you're
trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight.
Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. That was written in my first Bible, which was a pink Precious Moments Bible that my grandma got me. And same for me, of like you see it over and over, and it's like, yes, I know that verse. I've known it since I was a child. But every once in a while, that will slap you in the face, and it's so different. Do you have a favorite?
1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise all wisdom and instruction. Arguably also, like I was an English major in school, but if you're looking at the book as a whole, perhaps the thesis statement, it sums it up. But
for sure.
I would say, in the same vein of Proverbs 1:7, looking for themes is a great way to approach the book. So you'll start to notice things like the tongue or friendship, work, or the fear of the Lord will continue to come up. And when something's repeated, it's not random. It's like, hey, pay attention. Like, I don't miss it. This is important. Don't miss it.
Yeah, I think the slowing down, letting yourself just think over and over about one verse, that probably feels crazy to some of us.
Well, compared to what we're doing with TBR.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So we're just cruising through, and we have to get through the Bible in a year. And that's amazing. Don't stop doing that. But also let yourself do some of these other things too. Slow it down, take just one little chunk and see how God uses that in your life. I'm excited about this for some people.
So let's look at one little chunk.
Yeah.
This comes from day 155, specifically from Proverbs 4:23. Proverbs 4:23 reads, "Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life." So our question. I've always heard this verse used in reference to dating, but dating didn't exist when the Bible was written. So what does this verse mean in context?
Yeah. And it's worth noting that Tara-Leigh talked about this verse and its context in day 155. So we've already addressed it somewhat this week. It might be helpful to go back and listen to that day's recap for more info. But here's a helpful takeaway that will set up now kind of the rest of our conversation. So TLC said, this verse about guarding our hearts seems to be more concerned with eradicating bitterness and malice from our hearts, not romantic feelings. So again, not talking about dating. That's not really what the subject matter here is. I was looking up, kind of to start some of this, I was looking up at what really is the heart? Like, what are we talking about there? Because in the Old Testament, it really has so much more of a deeper and robust meaning than I think what we kind of generally think about today. For us, it feels a little bit more like sentimental, and it's this romantic affection or our own desires. We say things like the heart wants what it wants. We're talking about romantic feelings.
Follow your heart.
Follow your heart.
Don't do that.
But in the Hebrew language, the heart represents more of the whole of who we are. So this includes things like our desires and romantic affections, but it also includes our will. It includes our moral consciousness, what we think is right or wrong, our emotions, what we think about, what we believe. So it is more about the wholeness of your person. And so guarding your heart, or as the ESV says, keeping your heart with all vigilance, is a warning that recognizes that the heart represents our inner life and the whole of that inner life. So we need to guard and watch over who we are, what we think about, what we want, because from our hearts then flow our actions and how we're living in the world.
I also don't think that this verse was ever, and I know for some people have no idea how I got here, but some people would, I think, identify with this. This is not a verse that is meant to cause fear.
Okay, yeah, explain that more.
And I say that because I know there have been seasons in my life. It's like, no, guard your heart. Guard your heart. No, everything is bad. Like, guard your heart.
You can't be excited or hopeful.
Lock down your emotions.
Yeah, that's good.
Guard your heart. And I think that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is a call to something that is best for us. And so I know for me, I look back at, this has become LB's therapy hour. And as I look back at some of the different things, I think I've read this verse and I think guard your heart because there are bad things that are coming to get you, and so lock everything up. And I have at times lived not to the glory of the Lord in an attempt to guard my heart that I think the enemy twisted in his ways. So I think for people who have that same thing, I think it's important to notice that this is not actually a lockdown. It's actually a freedom opportunity and invitation.
Yeah.
An invitation really to what?
Invitation to to guard your heart so that you can live to the fullest. So we're in this invitation to a fullness of life by keeping away from the things that are going to pull us out and down.
That's good. In context, it's a father speaking to a son about how to live a wise life or a full life, right? And so I think when you take that context paired with what Kirsten said earlier about the heart, not just referring to feelings, but to the whole of the person, feelings included, that also means thoughts, desires, your will, your motives. It becomes kind of like the control center of who you are. Yeah. So that guard your heart isn't limited to just be careful who you date.
Right.
It's be careful what you let in because whatever influences your heart will shape your life, which means what do you dwell on? What do you listen to? Who do you walk with? What do you desire? All of those things together are forming how you experience life.
Yeah. And I think in the context of Proverbs, with so much of the book being about the fear of the Lord, I think that can be seen as kind of the overarching theme. It's like, guard your heart because you fear the Lord and you want to please him and you love him and you want to follow his ways and know him better. Yeah. I was seeing parallels between this verse and Romans 12:2, which says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So I think both of these verses are warning us about what are we letting in, like what you were saying, Emma? What are we being influenced by or thinking about or what we're desiring? And then recognizing that we have to be careful. We have to be diligent to discern between good and evil so that what comes out of us, flowing out of our hearts, coming out of our minds, will be good and godly things.
And be careful who you date.
Dating is included.
Dating probably was nowhere near the mind of this Proverbs writer, but
I think you could say that with confidence. Not probably. It certainly was not. We can confidently
say that it was not on his mind. And that is an application to what are we dwelling on? What are we listening to? What are we walking with? What are we desiring? That fits in with that. Like, be careful, and not just who you date, but be careful about who you spend time with, who you allow to influence you. So I think to the original question, make sure and do that too.
Yeah, that's good. Let's move on to our next Proverbs question, which is coming from day 159. And so it's Proverbs 16:1 and also 16:9. So let me go ahead and read those verses. The plans of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. So the question is, these verses both talk about the same things, man's plans and God's answers. I'm a big planner, but this makes all my planning feel pointless.
So if you're listening and you're a super type A person, you're not wrong to feel this tension. Because Proverbs 16:1 and 16:9 are holding two things side by side, your plans with God's direction.
Yep.
But the point of those two things isn't that God has plans so you should never plan.
Right.
It's that human planning has limits.
Yes, that's
In
good.
their hearts, humans plan their steps, their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Notice it doesn't say, don't plan.
Right.
It actually assumes that we will make plans.
Yes.
So planning is good. It's wise. It's a responsible thing to do. But we're not ultimately in control of how our plans will turn out.
Yes.
God
That's the key.
is. So instead of making planning feel pointless, these should actually reframe it. We get to plan. In fact, you could argue that we're called to plan, to live responsible lives, but God is the one who determines and controls the outcomes.
Yeah.
So then planning isn't about grasping for control. It's about stewardship.
Yeah.
Yes.
Using
Good.
our time to God's glory. So what does that look like? We make thoughtful decisions, we set goals, we exercise wisdom, but we hold it with open hands, knowing that God could redirect, delay, or completely change the outcome, which shouldn't frustrate us, though sometimes it does.
Sometimes it does.
It really should free us, because if everything depended on us and our plans, how exhausting would life be?
Oh gosh, I don't know how to think about it.
Yeah.
I can't say that I am a hyper type A person, so I'm not fully on this, but I do think that what you were saying with the control, that ultimately God is in control, then there is a posture of surrender that whether we're a type A person or a person that
Never
plans, there is a level of control of the life we're living in. And it's been really interesting. Even this week, there have been some things that, as I've been thinking about some future plans that we're trying to make as an organization, that the Lord has been like, oh, hey, this could be a good idea. Like things that I would have been like, no, we're never doing that. And the Lord's like, no, maybe think about it. And I'm like, oh, that might be a good idea. And so even in the planning, the Spirit is at work.
Yeah.
And so these aren't two things that are, we plan, God controls. It is, even in our planning, we hold a posture of surrender and open-handedness to what it is that the Lord is trying to do.
Yeah.
Because God can lead even in our planning.
Yeah.
He doesn't just change the plans. Sometimes he leads us to our very plans.
Yeah. And I think it's good to remember, like as somebody who is a planner, so I definitely understand.
Amen.
Yeah,
She is
Emma's
our
like,
planner.
you texted me a week ahead of time. I'm like, duh. Hello, Emma. People got to be planning here.
That's so true. That is a picture of what goes on in Deep Dive behind the scenes. Kirsten texting me months in advance and me not responding.
There is a big sister, little sister dynamic.
Yeah, so I feel...
Or a type A, more type B.
Type
Yeah,
B,
true,
that too,
exactly.
that too.
So I feel the question of, okay, well, do I just not plan? Like, is that what I'm supposed to be doing? And it can feel, especially to someone who likes to plan and is good at planning, it can feel sometimes discouraging or pointless if we have that mindset of like, well, I guess I won't bother because God's just going to do what he wants. But that's not what this is. That's not how God interacts with us. Yeah. God is relational and God is sovereign over our plans. We're dependent on him. Like we think that we're in control, but we're not. Like we have so much less control than we really kind of want to think or believe. But it's actually, when we can get to that place, it's actually really freeing. Yeah. And it's a place of humility of being like, God, I'm going to plan this thing, but I'm also going to trust that you're going to work it out in a way that's best for me, best for the people around me, that's going to be good, that's going to lead me in the right direction. You know, because it could be something where you're planning something over here and God's like, oh, girl, we're going this way, you know? And if we're so stuck in our, okay, well, I made this plan and we're not recognizing that God is the one who's actually going to establish that, then we can miss kind of the area that maybe God is wanting to lead us to, if we're being stubborn in it. And that's not what we're seeing here. Like, we are meant to be invited in this into a place where actually, like, I can be confident that God is leading and guiding and directing me. And that is such a great thing.
Yeah, it's comforting.
It is so comforting. It's really encouraging. Because I think also on the flip side, there are other people, and I have been in this camp as well, where it's kind of like, I'm going to miss what God has for me. Or like, that tension of like, I'm going to miss it.
Yes.
God, or am I going to miss it? And that's also what this is not saying. This is like, no, don't worry. Mm-hmm. God's got you. Yeah. He's going to establish what he has for you. So I think it can kind of work.
Can I throw out just a thought, a practical sort of application thought on this? I think when we are moving in a direction and the Lord interrupts it, ask the question, Lord, do you have something in this interruption? Because so I was even thinking just recently, I had something issue at the airport. I ended up being way too long in a certain spot. And by the time I caught my shuttle out to my car, it had been like an hour and nothing had gone right. I had a 20-minute gospel conversation with my shuttle driver.
Wow. Yeah.
I would not have had that shuttle driver
if you had gotten on an earlier show.
If everything had gone right leading up to it. And so there's a temptation to be like, we planned this way so that we could be efficient at the airport. Well, actually, God's plan in that moment was our lack of efficiency was his opportunity to put me in a place that ended up having this incredible conversation. Yeah. So I think when we find ourselves going, this isn't what I planned, take a deep breath and go, this isn't what I planned. And I trust that God is sovereign over all plans.
Yeah.
God, what do you want me to see? And I think that really shifts our perspective.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
Our next question comes from day 160, specifically from Proverbs 19:3, which reads, when a man's folly brings his way to ruin, his heart rages against the Lord. So the question, why would someone blame God for problems caused by their own choices?
I don't know who asked this question because they must be very holy.
You're like, totally do that.
I'm like, why would I not blame God for my own choices?
Well, and that's what I was thinking where I'm like, I think blame shifting is a pretty classic human quality.
Yeah.
We see it right away in the garden with Adam and Eve when they sin against God. Like when God confronts them, Adam blames Eve blames the serpent. So sin makes us do this. Like we want to hide, we want to shift blame, point fingers.
And anytime we're in a situation we don't want to be in, it is painful for us. Like when we're in pain, our brains try to investigate the situation and we want to know, how can I stop this pain? Like what causes this? How can I avoid this in the future? And if we have the chance to identify someone else as the cause, our egos will usually seize that opportunity and it would add to our pain to recognize this is my fault.
This is my fault.
Right. Yeah. And I was thinking about like, this is a really good question because this is what the Proverbs should be doing for us and in us is like asking us this, why would someone do this? Or would I ever do this? Have I ever done this? So I was thinking back to like when we were talking about meditating on some Proverbs that maybe convict or challenge you or encourage you. This maybe would be a good one to consider.
This would be a very good one to consider.
Yeah. So like where have I avoided responsibility for my bad choices, blamed God? How did that work out? How did it affect my relationship?
Well, I think I really identify with the pain piece. I am some people that are like, no pain, no gain. Like they love pain. They lean into it. They like thrive on it. Like that is not me. I am pain avoidant. I don't like pain. Can I get away from pain? Yes. I love my recliner. Very comfortable. But that idea of how do I most avoid pain causes me sometimes to lie to myself about what's good and about what's true. And so, man, the enemy wants to use pain in order to get us to convince us that God is the problem, not us. And, man, I fall into that way more than I care to admit.
We often want control without consequences. And so we want the freedom to make our own decisions, but we don't want to deal with the consequences that come from them. And we don't really say that outright, but our hearts kind of twist the story. So when things go awry, we don't say, frequently we don't say, my actions led to this.
Yeah.
We say, God, you did this to me.
Yes.
Like, why am I here? And over time—
I did everything right.
Yeah. Over time, the enemy can turn that into resentment toward God, when in reality, God isn't the problem. It's our foolishness, like our poor choices.
Yep.
Man, this question's too close to home.
Well, but in those, so what do you do in those situations?
There's an element of it that it is going, okay, how do I reframe this? What do I understand? What's true about God? What's true about me? And God's not the problem. I'm the problem. And that's not a self-deprecation thing.
Right.
That is a recognizing that I am a sinful person and I have a holy and perfect God. So when I'm shaking my fist at God for being the one that's caused the problem, I've got to stop and go, what is true about God? What is true about me? And what is true about the circumstance and maybe the other people in this circumstance? And to take and be willing to take a hard look at myself.
Yeah.
And own it.
Yeah. And I was thinking we often want to blame God for our issues, like what we're talking about. But really what we're invited to do is ask God to help us. It's really an invitation to God to be like, okay, I need your help. I need your forgiveness. Maybe I've made some foolish choices. Or maybe you don't even know what's going on in a situation. But it's like, God, give me wisdom. How do I move forward? How do I heal from this? So I think what we want to recognize from this proverb is that raging against God in this way, like when a man's folly brings his way to ruin, his heart rages against the Lord. That is the way of the foolish person.
Yes.
That is not the way of the wise person. And so we want to recognize, okay, what would a wise person do? And it's like run to the Lord, be in relationship with God. And that could look like a lot of different things. It could look like prayer, confession, talking with a friend, but it's that I think what we really want to focus in on is don't use this as an opportunity to run from God, but run to him.
Yes, because ultimately that's the invitation, what you're saying of just we have, by the grace of God, I'm so grateful that the level of wisdom that we have access to is far beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it and the gospel. I mean, there's the gospel message there. We blow it and he says, I've already paid for it. Just come right here. Come here. Come here. Man, that is, for me, that's such a gospel reminder. Even in this moment as we're talking about it, it just makes me once again just so grateful for the reality of the good news of Christ and what he did on our behalf.
Yeah. Good. All right. So let's move on to another general question from Proverbs. So this is from day 155. And the question is, can you help me understand more about what it means to fear the Lord and what that might look like in my life? So the big theme of Proverbs.
Speaking of my favorite verse,
I was going to say,
in Proverbs that includes this phrase, this is, I think, one of the most important themes in the book of Proverbs. I do think there are many scholars that would agree with me, but it can feel a little confusing at first. So when we hear the word fear, we think of being afraid, like, oh my goodness, there's a bear chasing me, or
scared of flying or being in front of people.
Maybe even nervousness or anxiety. But as TLC has often explained in TBR, that's not what the phrase fear of the Lord means. It's not, I'm scared. The fear of the Lord is about awe and reverence and rightly seeing God for who he is. And it's realizing, hey, he is holy, he is powerful, he's wise, and I am not.
Yes.
I fall short.
Right.
When you put us side by side, it's not looking good for me. And instead of pushing him away because of that discrepancy, you actually lean into it. So fear of the Lord isn't running from God because I'm afraid. It's drawing near to him with humility and an awareness of that distinction. So in Proverbs, it's presented as the foundation of wisdom, meaning you can't truly live wisely if you don't first view God rightly.
And I think part of that, just to jump in, I think part of that is really recognizing that this is God's world. Yes. He has set it up in a certain way to flourish. He loves his creation that he's made. Right. And so there are good ways and like good paths for us to walk in. Mm-hmm. And so fear of the Lord is recognizing, okay, God is the creator. I am a creature. I need him and I need his wisdom. I need to understand who he is and what he says and what he likes and what he doesn't like. So it's reorienting basically everything in our lives to God.
Yeah.
That he's the one who knows the things and we don't. We need to learn them from him.
And I love that this is the question we're tackling right after railing against God for our problems. Like I feel like this is such a applicable way to think about even that question. Mm-hmm. I once saw someone use, have you guys seen the bridge illustration?
Yeah.
Where like God is on this side and there's a gap between us and I'm on this side.
Yep.
I once saw someone explain how when we think about that, we think about the gap being about like this and we're here and God is here. And the reality is that gap is infinite. Mm-hmm. So when we think of the gap as like this, sometimes we think, yes, there's a gap, but the reality is God is actually way over here, and we're actually way over here, and I just think that gap, recognizing that God is bigger than we think He is, and that we are not as good as we think we are, or as not as good as we're tempted to think we are. So it's not just we're here and God's actually over here. It's actually both us and God in our minds need to be moved in opposite directions as we think about the amazing power and glory and majesty and holiness of our God. Mm-hmm. And the brokenness and the fallenness. And I think the more we understand and lean into the discomfort of a fear of the Lord, the more we can be excited about the gospel and what we're saved from, because we understand it all the more. So then we approach God with an awe and reverence that we miss when we don't recognize who He is and who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think fear of the Lord is seeing God rightly, responding accordingly. So, and it's about drawing us to God, like we've been talking about. It's understanding that God is the one who made the world. He's in charge. He's good. He wants a relationship with us because He wants good things for His creation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we need to see Him in that right and good place in our lives. And that's what Proverbs is trying to get us to think about.
Totally. It's like if the fear of the Lord is about delighting in Him and being in awe of Him, then here are the nuts and bolts of that. You have to spend time with Him. Yes. Like you have to really get to know who He is. And guess what? By doing TBR, being in His Word every day, looking for His character, you've probably heard TLC say a bunch of times by now, find your God shot. What's your God shot? You're taking those first steps. Yes. So you're on the right track.
Yeah. Yes.
And the reality is it's just, you've also probably heard TLC say, it's hard to trust a God you don't know.
Yes.
It's also hard to know a God you don't spend time with.
Right.
So by being in His Word, spending time with Him, you get to know Him. And in getting to know Him, you're learning to trust in Him more and delight in Him more. And one of the basic building blocks of that is developing the fear of the Lord.
Yes. So good.
Very good.
And just to tack on at the end here, it's when we mess up, it's not being scared to come to Him.
Yeah.
It's knowing that He's there to receive us when we mess up. So to fear the Lord is to not be scared of God in that way.
Yep. That's good. That's very good.
Yeah.
I think that's all we've got time for.
That's it, guys.
So much on the Proverbs. I love the Proverbs.
You know, one thing that we talked about earlier, and I don't know if we hit it hard enough, is that Proverbs are general wisdom. So we're not looking for like these absolute promises to ourselves.
They're
principles.
Promises.
So as we keep cranking through Proverbs, look for it. What are you chewing on? What are you mulling over?
Yep. I love it. Thanks for joining us, Elby.
I love it.
Yes, thank you for being here, and thanks for taking a deep dive with us. We will see you next week as we continue to read, understand, and love the Bible and the God who wrote it.
Are you having as much fun as we are?
If you are, be sure to share TBR Deep Dive with others.
We want to help as many people as possible find answers to the questions they have as we read the Bible together.
So if TBR Deep Dive has helped you read, understand, and love the Bible, be sure to share it with someone else.